can't wait to get into some of this news with you guys. Remember, this podcast posts every single Wednesday, so if you like this, make sure you give it some love. So let's get into some of the Dolphins news. This first news story is concerning TJ McDonald. He says the story is about how he's going to prepare for the regular season like any normal player would, like he would start week 1. Obviously, TJ McDonald is suffering an 8-game suspension, which led to him leaving the Rams. This is obviously, we've heard about this before. I think even when we signed him, that the Dolphins released a statement that he's still going to prepare like he would start week 1 of the season, which is normal. Obviously, he's going to be suspended for more than, he's going to be suspended half the season, for God's sakes. Nate Allen's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how, where Nate Allen is in his career. So there's your news there. This next piece of news is really interesting, and I know a lot of Dolphins fans are wondering about this, but the Dolphins have said they are not interested in Nick Mangold, and this is Nick Mangold, he's been one of the best Jets over the last decade. He's going to probably be in the Hall of Fame. He's a great player when he was in his prime. He's not vying for a lot of money. From what I read, he still wants to play. And obviously, a lot of Dolphins fans are concerned about Mike Pouncey's situation, and whether or not he can stay healthy with the hip issues. Obviously, he's had a history. Both of the twin, Pouncey brothers have had histories of hip issues, and it's continued to nag them throughout their career. So a lot of people were like, wondering, hey, what if we signed old Nick Mangold here and he could back him up? Which is not a bad idea. Nick Mangold, I think, is visiting the Ravens and the Jaguars. So teams still think he has it. The thing about Nick Mangold, though, is he's suffered from a ton of injuries, especially in the later half of his career. He's missed some games. I think what we have on the roster right now with Anthony Steen and Craig Ubrick is probably better than Nick Mangold is right now in his career. So I really don't think we need him, and I think it would just be wasted money, to be honest with you. I think Anthony Steen's better than he is right now. Just to get it clear, he's visiting the Giants and Ravens. So those are the teams that are vying for old Nick Mangold. But the Dolphins have said they have, again, no interest in Nick Mangold for obvious reasons there. I mean, we did a great job of adding depth to the offensive line with Sam Young, retaining him. He had a great game against the Rams, which is, one of the better defensive lines in the league, and he did a great job starting for Branden Albert. And then obviously when you look at Anthony Steen, who did a tremendous job, he started a lot of games, and not just at one position. He started at guard, and he started at center, and both times he did a fantastic job, especially in pass protection. He did a very, very, very good job. So I think the Dolphins retained a lot of the guys that they should have. And Anthony Steen, I think, is probably one of the better backups in the league, and obviously Sam Young's a really good backup. So they did a great job of adding depth to the offensive line. Obviously, Ted Larson, I think, is a good depth guy. I don't think he's going to start. Isaac Asiata, I think, will start. And obviously Jermon Bushrat. So the offensive line is better than it was a year ago, which is nice. It's more durable. It's going to be there for, hopefully, more than 10 games. Because last season we obviously struggled on the offensive line to keep anybody healthy, and we constantly were shuffling people around. And that led to a lot of games that we lost. So I think the Dolphins, one of their bigger priorities was adding depth on the offensive line and versatility, and I think that they did that. And I think Dolphins fans shouldn't be. I know it's been a problem for 6 years now with this offensive line. Ever since Jake Long got hurt, it's just got worse and worse and worse and worse. So I think they did a tremendous job for what they could do. I think they did a good job. All right, so this next news story is a bunch of baloney. It doesn't make any dang sense. But it basically reads that Reggie Bush still wants to play. Now, why this concerns the Dolphins, I have no idea, and it shouldn't concern the Dolphins. I think the backfield that Adam Gase has constructed, which has been all Adam Gase, by the way, has been pretty dang impressive. Obviously he wasn't here when Jay was drafted, but when he got Jay playing, he turned Jay into what Jay was supposed to be. which is nice. And obviously, when Dan Campbell took over for Joe Philbin when he got fired, Dan said the same thing. Jay had a bright future. So Jay, this has been a long time coming for Jay, and obviously he got his opportunity when Lamar Miller ran for Houston, and he did, and Adam made sure he capitalized on it. So that, again, Adam Gase, he's just a great developer, and he's a great coach. And then obviously when you look at Kenyon Drake, who had a heck of a rookie season, a lot of people forget he won us a lot of games last season. Whether that be he won us the field position battle, or he just literally won us the game with a kickoff return for a touchdown. Kenyon Drake was a great player last season. He had, his best game as a running back was probably against the Bills, or you can make an argument it was against the Patriots in Gillette, where he had both times had really good solid games. So Kenyon Drake's I think he's gonna make a huge step this upcoming season. And then you look at Damian and then Devon. I don't know what the heck this Reggie Bush business is, because I think the Dolphins running backs are extremely talented, and I don't think Reggie Bush adds anything to that. So, yeah, that was just, I don't know why that's connected. I don't know why there's no credible source for Bush being connected to the Dolphins. I think it's just speculation. It's a little weird. All right, this next piece of news is concerning Orlando Franklin, and there's no, other than the report that I did for you guys in the news update where his agent said, quote, he reached out to the Dolphins, nothing got done. Nothing is imminent. Nothing is, even in concrete, for God's sakes. I don't think he's going to be a Dolphin. Obviously, he's taking visits with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They need offensive line help, so I wouldn't be surprised if they took a hard charge at him and maybe overpaid for an Orlando Franklin and overreach, because they definitely have the cap for it. So I think it's getting more unlikely every day that Orlando Franklin will be a Miami Dolphin, which is unfortunate, because I know a lot of people are concerned about the guard position, blah 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 blah. But I think we're fine where we are at right now, and I can't wait to see it. We haven't even seen Isaac play yet, so let's pump the brakes. So I think the next piece of news is about Ladarius Green. He's basically, obviously he's had concussion issues throughout his whole career. He cannot stay healthy, and that's obviously very concerning to a lot of people. Whether that's healthy for him to continue to play, obviously when you have that much head trauma, it's a concern. Obviously, we saw Jordan Cameron; he literally had to retire because of it. So it's gonna be interesting to see what Ladarius Green decides to do. All reports say that he still wants to play, but no NFL teams have threw their hat in the ring just yet to get Ladarius Green, who's a great tight end when healthy, and it's unfortunate. It sucks when you see a talented player who just can't stay healthy. Same thing with Jordan Cameron, talented player, just can't stay healthy. So I think I think we're gonna do AFC East news, and then we're gonna get into the fan Q&A. All right, so let's start with the let's see here. You want to start with the Jets? I guess we'll start with the Jets here. Jets. Let's see here if we can start with them. So as my thing is loading, I will talk about nothing. It's a podcast. There is no editing. Get over it. There's no editing. Okay, here we go. Jets, obviously, there's nothing really to talk about. This is an interesting news story that I thought was hilarious. The Jets are not eyeing quarterbacks for the 2018 draft. That is the dumbest thing I have heard in a very long time. You're telling me that you guys are content with Christian Hackenberg, Bryce Petty, and Josh McCown. That's what you're content with? I don't know what else to say. I cannot even say the words "if I was a Jets fan," because that makes me sick to my stomach. I really don't understand that logic. God. I can't even explain in words the stupidity of that statement, because first of all, the 2018 quarterback class is looking pretty nice. Now, granted, the season hasn't played out yet, so we don't really know. But obviously Josh Allen and Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson, who I think still has to answer some questions there if he's truly a future franchise guy. The kid, he looks to me like he's just a great college player. I don't think his game translates to the pros, but when you look at Josh Allen and Sam Darnold, those guys seem pretty legit. Unless they have a bad season. Obviously, Josh Allen still has questions to answer also, but Sam Darnold, from what we saw of him last season in a USC uniform as a freshman, is pretty dang impressive, and he looks to be like the next big quarterback prospect. So it's a little insane to sit here and say if you're the Jets, who haven't had a quarterback since probably Chad Pennington, and even then, I mean, Chad Pennington's he was a pretty dang good. He was a good quarterback. I would say he was on Alex Smith. So he's a better Alex Smith. Which Alex Smith's a good quarterback, and Chad's who was a really good quarterback. But they haven't really had. I'm gonna say that. I'm not gonna go even further down the line there. So it's just insane, and it's good as Dolphins fans to hear this kind of stupidity. I mean, Todd Bowles known for defense, and obviously defensive coordinator under Bruce Arians for many years. So it makes sense, but that's depressing, man. I mean, that's not only is that crapping hilarious to me, I just don't understand that. All right, so let's move on to the Buffalo Bills. As my thing loads here, we can that sounded wrong, but let's look at this. There's really nothing. The Bills are connected to Gary Barnidge. If that's, I guess, what something you guys want to look at. There's a story here about, obviously the Bills are still confused on whether what to do with Tyrod Taylor, which we've talked about. I literally think I talked about that for 10 minutes in the last podcast, because it's a mind bog. It's a puzzle within a puzzle. It's Inception. People just cannot understand it. And if you do understand it, good for you. Because Tyrod Taylor, it's just a crapping enigma at this point. I think if you were to ask people who don't have quarterbacks as of right now, if they would take Tyrod Taylor, I don't even think it would be a question. If we went to Jacksonville right now, and we said Doug Marrone to Tom Coughlin, hey man, you want Tyrod Taylor, they would take him in a heartbeat. So it's another stupidity. To not be 100% behind him is interesting. It's interesting. I guess you could say it's just interesting because he is a good player. Obviously he's been to the Pro Bowl, and I really don't understand, what the heck the problem is with that. But yeah, and there's another piece of news here about the Buffalo Bills, that the Bills have hired former Dolphins general manager Dennis Hickey as a senior college scout. Good for you guys. Good for you guys. I'm so glad that Dennis Hickey is not a Dolphin. Dennis Hickey, that was one of the weirdest, quickest firings that I thought was hilarious. Well, not hilarious at the time, obviously. We were in a bad place as a franchise, but it was, I guess you could say, abrupt, to say the least. All right, so let's move on to the New England Patriots here. There's not a lot to talk about with them. Obviously, the Tom Brady concussion, issues that have came out, and then other than that, there's really nothing else to talk about. There's some David Andrews contract details, but that's boring, so nobody wants to talk about that. So there's nothing else to really talk about. I think we've covered everything. It's the off season, guys. There's not a lot to talk about. All right, so let's get to the fan Q&A, which should hopefully last us a while. As we sit here and wait for my little notes to load here, there's nothing really to talk about right now. It's just me, you, breaking the fourth wall right now, like all podcasts do, waiting for a list to load so I can further the plot in this podcast. All right, let's see here. It's still loading, which is interesting. We're still waiting. We are still waiting. And here it goes. Okay. It sucks. This offseason sucks, man. It just sucks. Really, really does suck. Okay. This first question comes from This is Patrick. He says, if Ja'Wuan James has a bad year at tackle, should we or would Adam Gase move him inside to right guard and kick Jermon Bushrod to right tackle where he used to play? So you're asking me, okay, if Ja'Wuan James has a bad year at tackle. No, I don't think that would happen. I think if he did have a bad year at tackle, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think that would happen. Obviously Ja'Wuan has had a lot of experience at the guard position, where he played guard at Tennessee. So I really don't I don't know how to answer that question. I don't think if he had a bad year, I think he would just get benched, to be honest with you. I don't think that Jermon would be kicked out. And if he did, that would be insane. I mean, that would be interesting, to say the least. And then that would leave a huge hole at the tackle position, which is what you don't want. I have a lot of faith in Ja'Wuan James. I really just can't see that happening realistically. But if he did, I really don't. I don't think Jamon would be kicked out, even though that would probably be the best action to take. I really don't know what the protocol would be there. All right. Basically, what I have to say about that is, no. I think if Juwan was having a terrible season, I think we would try a lineup change, maybe. And maybe, I guess you're right. I think maybe we would try Drummond at tackle. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. It depends on how bad of a season he's having. Juwan James has never had, like, a bad season. I mean, he's been inconsistent. He's had bad games, but he's never had a bad season. He's been inconsistent. And I think when he did an interview with, I think, John Kinjimi, I can't remember who he did it with, but he said that I've relied a lot on my athleticism early on in my career. So I guess basically what he's saying is he's worked on his technique. I think, he's comfortable with his technique now. Doesn't have to rely so much on athleticism anymore, which is good news there. This next question comes from Mikkel. He says, do you think we are going to re-sign Jarvis Landry? Yes. I think it's going to happen. Why is it taking so long? I couldn't answer that question. I've been worried about how Jarvis feels like he's being treated right now, and you guys better be blessed and thank God that Adam Gase is here, because if it was anybody else, trust me, Jarvis would not be re-signed. If this was Joe Philbin as the head coach and we signed Kenny Stills, then now before we sign Jarvis Landry, that's a slap in the face to me. Obviously, Kenny's not been here long as Juice has, and it doesn't mean as much. Jarvis means so much to the fan base and to the franchise. And I think it's just we're all there for it. Like we are feeling. I think the Dolphins fans are upset for Jarvis because of how long it's taking. But yes, I think eventually it's going to get done. Let's see here. Let's see if we can find any good ones. This question I keep getting from the I don't know why. It comes from James Parker. He says, "Do you think Cordrea Tankersley will play free safety?" No. Because the thing about Cordrea is he has no desire to play run defense at all. And that's something he needs to work on. I mean, when you watch tape of him, just watch the Florida State game. They just continued to run at him, and they didn't stop. So asking him to play the safety position, where you have to be a great tackler, is just a terrible idea. And there's a lot more reasons why that's a terrible idea. And I'm not going to get into those right now because it would just be a waste of time. Let's see here. See if we can't find any more. Alright, this next question comes from Eric McKinney. He says, "What rookie should start week 1 for the Dolphins?" What rookie should start? I would say Raekwon definitely should start. I think Raekwon should definitely start. And Raekwon should start. Isaac should start. That's about it. I don't think anybody else should start. I think Isaac should start. I don't think he's got a lot of competition down there with old Ted Larson. And then, Raekwon, I just want to see play. I think Raekwon's got a lot of talent. And I think he will start because of that talent. Let's see here if we can't find anything else. This next question comes from Mikkel Hansen. He says, "Do you think it would be possible to trade Koamisi this offseason? And do you think we're going to make any trades at all?" Any trades at all? No. I don't think we're going to trade Koamisi, and I don't think anybody wants Koamisi. So I don't think that's possible. And it's the thing about Koamisi, man, is we had a specific sub package for him last season, then he gets hurt. It's just health, man. If he could just stay healthy, which is a lot of players on our roster, if he could just stay healthy, I think he could help us in the pass rush department, because he's a great pass rusher. When we drafted him out of college, that's what he did. His rookie year, he had 5 sacks, which is pretty dang good for your rookie season. And he's just a great pass rusher. And I think if we can continue that idea with him, if we continue to not play him at linebacker, because we literally switched him from he was a pass rusher coming out of college, and then we switched him to middle linebacker. We just destroyed Koamisi's development, and that's where I think he belongs, is rushing the quarterback. Obviously, we attempted to do that last season. If he didn't get hurt, you would have seen that. and I think you would have seen him do it at a pretty dang good level. And this next question comes from Jay the Boss. He says, how long do you think Suh will be a part of the Miami Dolphins? And if he leaves, do you think there's anyone on the roster that can replace him? No. Nobody on the roster can replace Ndamukong Suh. Suh is one of the best players in the league. Suh is one of the best players at his position ever to play the game of football. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So obviously there's nobody who's going to replace him. And how long will Suh be on the roster? I think, he signed a 6-year deal. He's played 2 of those 6 years. So he's got 4 more years. That's basically the rest of Suh's prime. Obviously, Suh would be, 34 at that point. So we're going to have Suh for probably the rest of his career. So we're going to have him for a while. Let's see here. This comes from the Gamer12345. He says, do you think Andre Branch could have a breakout season? What your definition of breakout is I think he had it last season. He had a lot of sacks that were called back because of penalties also. But he already had it. He had 5.5 sacks. Can he have more than 5.5 sacks? Yeah. I guess your definition of a breakout season would be a 10-sack season. That's not going to happen. And if it did, that would be amazing. And I hope it happens. But I mean, I would say his ceiling for next season would be 8 sacks. I think that's probably where he would land there. This next question comes from the Gamer12345. He says, do you think Jakeem Grant can be used the same way the Rams used Tavon Austin? Yes. But I think he's a better Tavon Austin. That sounds blasphemous. I know that's going to sound crazy to some people, but it's true. I think Jakeem Grant's a way better route runner than Tavon Austin ever was, and especially at this point, is Tavon's second year in the league. I think the route running is night and day. Obviously, Tavon has suffered from terrible quarterbacks, but I think Jakeem's going to have a great season, hopefully this upcoming season, and special teams especially. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the Dolphins want to get him more involved. They've said that publicly. Hopefully he's all there. Clyde said something very interesting about Jakeem, and that he's probably one of the best route runners on the team, which is saying a lot. Obviously, Jarvis Landry is probably the best, but comparing him to DP and Kenny, I don't think some people would even put him in the same league as those guys in terms of route running. So I think Jakeem's got a very bright future. Can we use him in the same way as Tavon Austin? Yes, but I don't think we should. I think we should use him how Adam Gate. When you watch tape of Jakeem from last season, we faked it to him a ton, and I think we're going to use him more as a traditional receiver this upcoming season. I would suspect. One of the things I suspected him to do a lot more last season was catch a lot of screens. And Tavon is famous for, he does a lot of, they use him in the end-around game a lot. They use him a lot of gimmick plays, which I think you're going to see Jakeem do that a lot. But I think you're going to see more Jakeem do, catching screens, maybe, just quick little routes. Let him make plays in the open space. Basically, I think he's going to be used as more of a traditional receiver. I think you're going to see him in the deep passing game a whole lot more than you did the season before. Let's see here. This next question comes to Erratic YT. He says, should we sign Darrelle Revis? Yes. I think Darrelle Revis would add a lot to this football team. I think obviously there's a hole at safety's position, and there's a hole at the safety position, which is obviously Nate Allen, and I'm not going to even go into this, which I could rant about Nate Allen for an hour, but Darrelle Revis is he would add so much versatility. I think the ability for him to guard running backs and tight ends at an elite level is something that we couldn't find anywhere else, and he's a great tackler. He's a physical player. And then when TJ came back, if TJ is a better safety than Darrelle Revis is, then we would put Darrelle Revis in the nickel cornerback role. I think it just fits so many spots. And I think it just makes a lot of sense. And I think Darrelle Revis still has it. And I think not only does he still have it, but I think he's got at least 3 more years left in him. And if Darrelle Revis has 3 more years left in him and we can get him on a cheap deal, that's perfect, man. Even if it's a 1-year deal, prove-it deal, I mean, hey, it doesn't get much better than that. Erratic YT, this question also comes from Erratic YT. He says, should we sign another linebacker? No. I think we have a pretty dang good linebacker core as of right now. I think it's pretty dang talented. Obviously, Lawrence Timmons. Even, some of the unsung heroes like Neville Hewitt, who don't get a lot of love. I think, Neville does his thing. Neville he does one thing good, and that's coverage. And a lot of people don't know that, but it's true. I mean, I think if you guys want to go watch a game, you can look this up on YouTube if they have it up there. Just watch when we played the Patriots, week 17 of the season. I think, was it 2015? Watch that game and watch how Neville Hewitt pretty much locked up Gronk, which is pretty dang hard to do. This next question comes from Erratic YT. He says, "Do you think Julius Thomas is the answer at tight end?" Absolutely. I think Julius Thomas, when healthy, is a great player. And, thing about Julius Thomas is he's going to have an insane season under Adam Gase. As long as he can stay healthy. But when you look, just go watch Julius Thomas in an Adam Gase offense, and just how Adam Gase made Julius Thomas. And when Julius Thomas was with Adam Gase, obviously he was a top 3 tight end. There was discussions. Obviously, Gronk has had injuries, so that plays a role into. I'm not going to debate who's a more talented player because it's not even close. But Julius Thomas and Rob Gronkowski, there was debates who was better at points in their career. So Julius Thomas in an Adam Gase offense is insanely good, and should open up the offense and help the offense be more productive this upcoming season, which I can't wait to see. This next question comes from Cathil Hilton. Hilton, I don't know how to say your name, man. If you could tell me how to pronounce it in the comment section below, that'd be great. But it's just not really a question. I think he's just commenting, but I feel obligated to answer this question. He says, "I think every position has multiple talent that can possibly be starters in the case someone goes down, but the tight end position, I will argue with everyone that the tight end position is the worst position on the Fins roster. Julius Thomas is your only seam threat, and he's hardly healthy. Fasano has receiving skills, but he's not running by anyone, and how is not the biggest issue that people talk about. This group lacks talent in every way." I think you make a great point, and I think it's a good concern. So with it saying that, I totally disagree with. I mean, I don't disagree with you in some aspects. Obviously, if Julius Thomas goes down, our number 1 tight end would be Anthony Fasano, which is not a good thing. And I understand that's a big. That's an issue, but I'm not gonna say I can't predict the future. I don't have a crystal ball, and I cannot tell. Like, I can't say, oh, this is what's gonna happen. This is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen. Because if I could do that, then I would be rich, and I don't know. So Thomas Durante, I think, is something that I think you should keep your eye on, because I think he's a very talented player. Obviously, we drafted him in the 7th round out of UCLA. Some people think he's a receiver, and I think he's a tight end. Obviously, he can't block to save his life, but he's still on the roster. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what he does this offseason, what he does in preseason. I think you got to keep your eye on him, because if he can turn out to be what we thought he was, I think he can be a tremendous player with his receiving skills. He got some playing time in NFL regular season games. I can't remember what play it was, but he ran a beautiful route, and he was wide open for a touchdown, obviously. It ended up being a touchdown anyway, but I think it was to Dominic Jones, and Thomas Durante was wide open. Like, he's a smooth route runner. He'll kill you with his route running. I think that's a player you need to keep your eyes on. That's basically what I said. But I do understand your concern. If Julius Thomas suffered a season-ending injury, whether that be in training camp, whether that be in training camp, any other off-season workouts, whatever it is, yes, that would be devastating to the roster. But if everybody stays healthy, the tight end position is not something you need to worry about. So yeah, this next question comes from David, and he says, concerning Avery Young, he's basically saying, this is a long comment, he's saying, to break it down quickly, he says, he thinks the reason why the Dolphins are not going after an offensive lineman is because of the signing of Avery Young. If you guys don't know about Avery Young was a pretty dang good player coming out of high school, one of the highest recruited offensive linemen coming out of high school, goes to Auburn, has an okay, he's not like, this guy's going to be Laramie Tunsil or anything like that, he wasn't like a, bright star, goes undrafted because of the knee issues that he has suffered, has a lot of talent. Obviously, the Saints let him go. The Dolphins pick him up to see if he's got anything left in the tank. I don't think that's the reason at all. I think Avery Young has a chance. We'll see what he does, but he's a big dude, has potential to be a really good guard in the league. But I don't think that's why the Dolphins, don't want to go after him. All right, guys, so I want to leave you with this before, obviously, this is the offseason. I apologize. This podcast, I feel like I was really trying start conversations, if you know what I mean. But I will leave you guys with this. Olivier Vernon. I want to know you guys' opinion on OV, because I wasn't doing videos when Olivier Vernon was on the roster. So let me know what you guys think about Olivier Vernon. What do you think? What should the Dolphins have kept him? Obviously, we paid Andre Branch more money than we were willing to pay Olivier Vernon. Do you think it was a mistake letting him go? Obviously, now we saw what he did with the Giants. Let me know what you guys think about Olivier Vernon down in the comment section below. Obviously, homegrown kid. Played high school in Miami, played college in Miami, played pros in Miami, and then he leaves for the Giants. I am Skagx1383. Remember, this podcast posts every Wednesday, so if you're interested, you can go check out the other ones, which are much better episodes. Well, I think both of the other ones lasted an hour long. This episode wasn't bad, but I feel like it wasn't the best. I guess I will say that. So I'm Skagx1383, and I'll see you guys in the next one.